Hi, welcome to Tom and Rob chat. That's Tom. I'm Rob. I've never actually done that in the show before.
I
For those of you
know.
who don't know, it is the 9th of June of 2026. Not sure what's going on in the world. The president stormed out of an interview this weekend, and that was all good, except like the reporter did the very basic thing of saying, "What's your evidence of what you're saying?" And this contradicts what you said earlier. Just two things. And it made him, fly into a visible rage and stomp off, crushing his microphone under his big, fat, swollen ankle foot.
Did he drop it on the floor and then stomp on it?
Yeah, he threw it on the floor. I'm done. And then as he got up, and you actually hear it go crunch. But the thing
Oh,
is, it's like,
wow. I saw it,
what?
but I didn't hear that.
These are basic reporter things to do anyway. Why has no reporter done this in the last 10 years up until this weekend?
Yeah. No, it's
What
a
is
good
with
question.
that? Everyone's celebrating
Why
her like
isn't
she
there
did
any pushback?
something. Why have we taken so long to just simply ask him for the evidence of what he's saying? I
How
don't
come
understand
nobody
that.
in, now maybe everybody in his press goggles on Air Force One or in the Oval Office are all vetted friendly press. I don't know. But I
At
could have
this point they
sworn
are.
occasionally Caitlin Collins is in there and maybe, oh, what's the young woman from ABC whose name escapes me that he
Mm.
hates? Black woman.
I mean, it is true you
Hmm.
lose access if you are hostile. Um, but he
Yeah, well,
thinks,
she's not a correspondent, so
yeah.
he has TV show, so she doesn't have to worry about that. He may never come on the show again, but so what?
I mean,
But
he laid it out pretty plainly. Uh, a corrupt press is any press that doesn't flatter me at all
disagrees with him.
times.
Yeah,
That's he seems to misunderstand. Of course, all presidents get testy with their press corps. They just do
heck,
because.
John Adams, he actually jailed a few of them
Hmm. I mean
under
the
the Alien and Sedition Act. Now, the guy who did that, he said something really scurrilous, but still, you're not, they're supposed to be allowed to say something scurrilous, but it was, I don't know if you remember that. I think that particular part of the Alien and Sedition Act is null and void because it basically said you can't defame the president or the government. And of
yeah,
course, that's the whole point of the, of
the
the
free press that
First
they
Amendment.
just
Yeah.
invented.
That they
um,
had just invented. That's correct.
they had just invented. It was still like 1798. Anyway, yeah, that's what I mean. There were presidents that were better at schmoozing the press. No one took photos of FDR in the wheelchair. That was off
That's
limits.
true.
But they all knew he was in a wheelchair 24 hours a day. Um, yeah, I think JFK had a certain charisma that no one posted pictures. No, we didn't know about the Marilyn Monroe thing until 30 years later, that kind of thing. Um,
That's because none of the reporters knew about that.
yeah, funny. But yet I know George W. was uh, testy with him, but he could also be a real charmer and schmoozer in person kind of deal. Um,
You could always tell when George got a question he didn't like. He would go, "Thank you
it,
for that question."
he'd get his back up a little bit.
Yeah, and he would stand up direct and he goes, "God damn it!" And
Yeah.
while he's remembering or thinking about his answer, he goes, "Well, thank you for that question." And then he would take a pause and then launch into his. But at least he didn't storm out of the room.
No, he had manners. um, and Obama didn't always show his emotions, but he'd get upset
He
and
had him.
angry about the
Yeah.
press. He had them, and he still does. He's just very, very good at it. Um, Unlike some people, the only other weird thing about that interview is when the president really got upset. started yelling about things being rigged, he said to the reporter, "Your elections are rigged." Like
Yeah,
suddenly it's
that was
not
weird.
our
In your
elections, not
country, in your country,
yours.
I
I
had
thought
that
that was
same.
psychologically something.
My inner sled dog did that too, Rob. I went,
Hmm. Yeah, just at that moment.
hmm,
And I'm waiting.
what's
I watched the damn clip. I'm sick of seeing the clip now. I've seen so
yeah.
many people cover it and not really have anything to say about it that I didn't observe myself. And I'm like, I want someone to analyze that moment. I even saw a guy, I analyzed, body language and psychology, and he didn't pick up on that moment when he was discussing it. I don't know,
A
but
few people
we
have.
saw it.
Yeah, yeah, and Heather Cox Richardson, she mentioned it in either today's or
Oh,
no,
okay. I
not
didn't see that.
today's. It was for yesterday, I believe. She mentioned it, and then on maybe the Bulwark mentioned it. I think
Hmm.
Tim and
Yeah, what's his?
William Crystal, Bill
Yeah, Bill
Crystal.
Crystal. Yeah.
I believe on Monday they went, yeah, what was that all about? Why did he say your country and your elections?
Yeah, like he's not part of the we, the people. It's very
Very
telling.
strange.
It is pretty strange. And then I personally am one of those people that just does not care about professional sports. This makes me an outlier. Most of the world likes their sports, but even I have to notice like the president disrupting the NBA finals in New York with the Knicks, and apparently this is been much celebration because the Knicks are finally in the playoffs again, or whatever it is.
Yeah, they haven't been in, and
I'm barely
no,
hanging in there with
they
what
haven't
I
been
know
in
how
the
to say.
finals. They haven't been in the finals for 27 years, and they
Okay, that is
haven't
quite a
won
long
it
time.
since 1973.
So there's a lot
And the
riding,
last team that beat them was the San Antonio Spurs.
that's who said it is again, right?
Yes,
And they
correct.
have this
That's
new
my
star
team.
player. Um,
Yes, Wemby,
right.
Victor Wembanyama.
I thanks to my nephew, I am hipper than I normally would be. um,
Well, he specifically stipulated that I'll come to the, but you can't introduce me. I'm not gonna make wave to the crowd or anything like that. But what they did do is they did allow a camera on him during the
mhm.
singing of the national anthem, and as soon as he came on the jumbotron, the boos erupted, and apparently it's $1,000 a seat for the cheap seats
Yeah.
to watch this game in MSG, Madison Square Garden. Out in the that's one of the reasons that the viewing parties out in the plazas and stuff were such a big deal, because that's where the
Like
proletariat Knicks fans could watch the game.
they go to the physical location, stay outside, and have parties watching it.
Right.
And it's
Correct.
a tradition,
And
so it's been happening always.
well, since the ticket prices under Dolan went through the roof, and so you have to be a rich New Yorker to. I mean, like I say, Rob, the cheapest seat to get into Game Three was $1,000 American.
The cheapers.
And I'm going, are you effing kidding me? Now, you never get away with that in a place like San Antonio because it's a little below average in terms of average
Median.
median, thank you, median income, not average income, but median income. And you wouldn't even think of treating a Spur fan like that because they're, salt of the earth, and they don't have a shitload of money.
Yeah.
But man, in New York, and anyway,
It,
that's
uh,
I could rant
it
about
seems
that for a
crazy to
long
me
time.
that something as huge a cultural thing as Madison Square Garden is owned privately by one guy.
Yes,
You can
he
almost think it'd
also
be
owns
owned by
Radio
the city
City.
of New York City, or and Mamdani would be running it or something. No, maybe he's thinking about it.
Well,
This is now
I
making
have a radical suggestion um, that two entities should take over all sporting teams.
Hmm.
professional sports teams, and they should run the franchise um, together as a unit. One would be the city
Yeah,
that the
the
team
city,
is
the
in.
team city.
So the
Yes.
city would own the team and the players. So it's radical in that it
Oh,
puts the
cell phone
proletariat in
co-op
charge.
teams.
Yeah, basically. Because honestly, what value does an owner add to a sports team? They don't play. Most of them don't pick players. They hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
They add nothing. It is a vanity thing for them. That's it.
And my
So,
vanity and money, you get to hang out in the club with other owners hang out.
right.
It's an
And
echelon of society.
it is so elitist. It is so aristocratian, aristocratian. I don't even know.
How do
Help me
you
out if you
formulate
know
that
what the hell
word?
I'm trying to say. It's so aristocratic.
Aristocratician.
It's
Aristocracian.
not Aristotelian, because that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different guy.
But anyway, it's it just smacks of now. Honestly, back when um, uh, baseball teams would go professional, they often were co-ops. The players kind of organized the team. They were their own managers, or they'd have a player manager. And but they didn't have really expensive facilities, and um, this was back in the 1890s or whatever. But then what happened was a say a really big town like Brooklyn didn't have a baseball team. A guy who ran a used car lot or whatever would go, I want to sponsor a team. So, hey
Mm,
guys, I'll pay you to play. I will provide the, you know, I will provide the place to play and all that stuff. And that's how it kind of organically happened. Same thing happened with NFL. It was about 60% of those people were car dealership people
right.
running football teams.
Running
And
football teams.
now in basketball, I'm not sure if that was similar. But, yeah, they were small business owners in the city, and the city usually had a sporting bus, or maybe like Wrigley built Wrigley Field in Chicago, but and Comiskey built Comiskey Parks. Yeah, I mean they did build their own parks,
Well, at some
but
point,
maybe some did have municipal stadiums. Like there was a municipal stadium in Baltimore, and that was owned by the city because it
isn't
was
it now
called
like
Municipal
T-Mobile
Stadium.
Stadium now or something?
Yeah, yeah.
There was some
So
corporate takeover of parks and arenas. I mean, at
there's
some
big
point,
money in them now, and
owning a team went from being something a millionaire did to something a billionaire did at some point. Although now that players are millionaires, maybe that's when it popped up the levels or something.
well,
There's a lot I
but
don't
I,
know
I have
about.
no problem with I don't have no problem with players
Making a
who are putting
salary.
their bodies on the line,
Yeah, and it's a short
especially when
term.
they play
You
a
got
blood
10
sport like
years of
football.
prime action and uh
Yeah, man. I think the average NFL player's tenure is about maybe 2.8 years, a little less than three.
that's why you give them, $15 million um yeah. Oh, so the president disrupts this whole thing, puts the barriers
Yeah.
outside, cuts out all the parties, and then when he's sitting there he falls asleep because he doesn't actually care about basketball games. What is
No,
he doing that? Why did he do all that at a time when he's
because
already unpopular for so many things?
because Dolan invited him, and
Mhm.
Dolan has probably given him a crop load of money in terms
Probably.
of uh, probably to his PAC, because
Yes,
you
that
still
pack
can't
really is
legally give it directly to the candidate. You still are limited to $2,300,
they have got to do
but you could
something.
give unlimited amount to a PAC, and he's full of PACs. I'm
It's
sure it was a Dolan invited him and he wanted to go.
I seem to recall all this legislation. There was Dodd Frank and there was
Yeah.
McCain Feingold. And I'm like, where do these things go? Meanwhile, we still have
McCain
that.
Feingold basically was overturned by the Roberts Court in Citizens United.
That's what happened. They went to a lot of trouble to make that legislation,
They
and then
did,
it was like almost immediately tossed out like that.
and it's
Meanwhile,
bipartisan too.
that anti-pornography thing that they want to use in Project 2025 has been around for 150, 190 years. It's still an active law. I don't understand these things. Um,
It's it's an act of law, but nobody's tried to use it because it isn't quite clear that any court would now. Of course, the Supreme Court would probably say, yeah, what's the name of the dang thing? It's the crossing state lines for immoral purposes.
oh, yes.
They used it against Jack Johnson.
Joe, yeah, the boxer,
Yeah,
the
or
guy who
was it
was Muhammad Ali
Jack
before
Johnson? Right?
Muhammad Ali.
He
Really
was.
good Ken Burns documentary about
Yeah, he was something.
that
And
athlete. Just one of these guys that comes out with a huge personality and like, I know I'm a black man in a racist country, but I'm gonna live my life. And
and he did.
and he did. He sure did. He lived that life. Um, yeah, so I don't know. So you take a white woman across state lines and somehow they can arrest you and throw you in jail, that kind of thing. Speaking of weird
Well,
things on the
they had
books.
plenty of. Oh yeah, I wish I could remember that damn something act.
Hmm.
I think it's an Irish name too. Name for the guy who done. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you still had a lot of states had anti-misogyny laws,
Laws, yeah.
and I think he tried.
Anti-sodomy here in Texas for a long
Yeah, yeah.
time.
I don't think that ever got taken off the books. It was just never enforced
Deprecated.
because deprecated. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some kind of Supreme Court decision saying, yeah, maybe it's not our business to legislate bedrooms, but I can't remember specifically them saying that's not what we do. Um, I God, this is so weird. I had a dream over the weekend about the movie Megalopolis, which is that last thing Francis Coppola did, that he spent 150 million of his own money making, and then it was impenetrable flop. Um, that I did go to see out of just sort of filmmaker loyalty, but I couldn't make any real sense of it. It's New York City, but it's ancient Rome, but it's some weird substance that he had made that builds buildings, but also replaces his human eye in his socket when he loses it in an accident. Though the only
Really,
thing
all
so
of
I
that's
had a
in the
dream
same
all
movie.
night long where I was revisiting this movie, watching it, being on set, talking to Adam Driver, seeing Coppola there. He looked like he did in Making Apocalypse Now, like shirtless in the jungle version of him. And so the only thing I can think is like I'm dreaming about filmmaking somehow because that's
Yeah,
as impenetrable as the movie is, it's just got to be sort of a like he's talking about himself, his film career, his difficulty making movies. I'm an artist in a world that doesn't understand art, a truth teller in a world that doesn't understand truth. Something he had a message he was trying to convey, and he did it in a completely bizarre way. Couldn't forget. Nothing had prompted me in waking life to think about this movie at all, and then I dreamt about it all night long. And then weirdly, somehow filmmaking popped up in my life like 2 days after that. Because what was for some reason I was Googling about mini DV tapes
oh yeah.
or just my old camera, the Canon XL1. Um and found out like basically after one or two searches, it's like if you still have these tapes, you better get on digitizing them onto a hard drive because we found out they have a shelf life and it's about now. They last
I have
about
a
20,
shitload of those.
25 years. And I'm like, I have dozens and dozens and dozens of those things. It's like I do still have old computers and old mini DV playing things. I think that I haven't turned on in a while, but maybe I can do it. But it's something I'll have to do like a few hours a day every day for 4 months. But I better get started. stressed me out completely. It's like, but not doing it is gonna not relieve the stress. The only thing I can do is actually come up with a plan, figure out what hardware setup I actually need, invest in another hard drive, buy some more cables, that, and actually start get it set up where it's just sitting there so that a couple of times a day I can start up a tape and let it play while I do other things, and it just stays there and I just have to do it. Although while
But
I was there talking to Google's AI, because you do a search and it starts talking to you now. And so it became curious, like, why are you asking about mini DV tapes? And I said, well, I made a movie, like a feature film. It's like, you did? There aren't many people that made movies with, full movies with mini DV. What's your movie called? Well, it's called The Krone Experiment. Wow, you mean based on the book by astrophysicist J. Craig Wheeler? And it seduced me into like giving it too many personal details where it knew exactly who I was by the end of the conversation, was asking me very ego flattering questions like, how did you deal with the sort of the inherent graininess of the XL1's footage? And I was like, well, I kind of went kind of a 1970s movie vibe, TV movie, almost like a Columbo episode or this explained how. And I said, that's a great idea, that really takes advantage of its format and how you're doing it. And started asking me what equipment I used. Did I have a dolly? I said no, but I used the towel on the tablecloth trick at one point. And it said, "Wow, classic indie move. You're sound like a really ingenious filmmaker." Anyway, and then I said, "Well, the main problem is I made this movie and no one knows about it." And then it started giving me a plan for how to like
get
roll
it
this,
out there, huh?
get it out there. He's like, lean into the fact that it's based on this book and all this other stuff. And then finally, I just like one day after, no, a couple days after all that. In fact, last night, I was sort of standing outside pondering. I'm like, should I just upload the thing to YouTube now? Finally, just like I've been still waiting. I'm still working on subtitling it very myself, even though YouTube
Yeah,
can do it. But I'm like, that's a dumb, because I could just upload it and after the fact, I can upload my captions file
you
without the
can.
pressure of that being the thing in the way. And then as I was doing that, this giant owl like flew into my field of view and then landed on this post and turned its head and looked at me. I was like, well, that's not a really good reason to do it, but it's better than my reasons not to do it. So as of midnight last night, the Krone Experiment is officially available on YouTube on its own official channel.
Oh wow.
There it is. And I was sure that I had fixed all the audio problems that bugged me all these last 22 years. But as I was watching it one more time, about 2 minutes before the end of the movie, there's still an audio dropout where this movie just goes absolutely silent. And I'm like, because I think you can change the all sorts of things after you've uploaded video, but you can't re-upload the video.
Oh,
That's one thing, you have to upload a second version of. And it's like, but weirdly, as of midnight to 5 p.m. here, there's 5 views on the movie already.
wow.
So I'm like, huh, I guess I'll leave it. Also, I was trying to tell IMDb, like, I don't know how it works, but there's now official YouTube of this movie. It's always had a listing. I
Right.
got that in there early on, but it's never had like a link to a video of it. I'm like, well, I might as well tell. But now that I've told them, like now I've told them. So I'm just gonna and like this movie is never done. I guess I'll leave it. I can actually like now, I am gonna do this thing of digitizing all the original material. Now I have a YouTube site to say, hey, here's glimpses at the old, it could help me as I'm archiving to like I have a place to like show some of it in
Hmm.
case that's interesting to young filmmakers. I could document the whole process of me, because sometimes while we were making it, I would say cut, and then the camera had different modes, movie
Yes.
mode and just video mode. I would click it into, it was just rotating a little knob,
Huh?
I would click it into video mode, keep it running, walk into the shot and talk and to be a director. So there's behind the scenes footage that has never been used for like a documentary or anything. But you know, I always said, like, if I just had a terabyte drive back then, I would have had the whole movie's footage easily
Oh
on
yeah.
one drive. And I will
Yeah.
finally have that now in a couple of months if I finally digitize all these tapes. And that will be interesting. I don't know. I've never had it all at once to look at all at once. I always had to work on an hour at a time. And then
Does the deck does the deck provide a digital feed into a computer, or is there
you still need to you have to have a fire wire. But yes, it's not like it's going through video cables. It's a digital tape that sends those actual zeros and ones into the computer
okay,
for a raw digital file that's
but
complete.
how are you going to find a FireWire connector? I mean, we haven't
Oh,
used that in.
I haven't thrown anything away. It's all still
Okay,
here in this living
but I mean,
museum.
how do you plug that into a computer though? You'd have to
Oh,
have
I
some
have
sort
old
of adapter.
computers too. I have the computer I edited the movie on sitting under the desk right here.
And you think it still works?
It does.
Okay.
I turn it on every now and then. In fact, to get the thumbnail for the YouTube, I'm like, oh, I need the poster I made. And so I
Oh yeah, I remember that.
booted up the old computer, did a search on TKE poster. There's my Photoshop files, pulled it up, transferred it via the thumb drive that I'm missing. um, into my new computer, my new Photoshop, got the wide thumbnail. And so I'm like, well, I know it's still working in there. In fact, I need to see some other stuff. What else is there on that hard drive? But yeah, I'm going to have to use some rig up of old things. I also have this, where is it? Uh, that, that, that old eMac.
Holy
After the
crap!
iMac, there was an eMac, and I was using that to edit. And
That was
that
for
also had
education stuff, right? Wasn't the eMac Education Mac?
yeah, that one had a DVD burner for writable DVDs. So that's how I was making um temp DVDs as
Piece.
I edited. So I know that machine also is just sitting over there quietly being an egg. It's like, oh yeah, I could probably use that as well. I also in 2018 bought a 2012 MacBook that had it was a special kind that had every kind of connector you would want, including FireWire and newer USB. It had a weird number of jacks in it. It runs slow as heck, and I was like, and it started doing that after I upgraded to a more recent
Yeah.
OS. And I wish I had just left the 2012 OS on it because at the time it was the fastest MacBook you could get. And the
Oh
fact
wow.
that it runs like molasses now is really irritating. It's like I wonder if I could reinstall an older version of it because I specifically thought one of these days I'm going to be happy that I have something else with FireWire in it, and I don't know what yet, but I'm going to buy this now.
I wonder if they sell any of these with a FireWire attached, to go right
Um,
into a modern Mac with the USB-C.
they might. They might be
I
floating around, or
the
you
one
have to
I
go on
got,
eBay or something. I don't know.
yeah, I have one of these floating around somewhere, but it had all the stuff one of my old Macs had, but no new Macs have. Like it had a SD card slot,
Oh yeah,
and, regular USB-A, or USB 1, whatever they call
right.
it.
Yeah.
And then it had some USB-C. What it doesn't have is the USB-B mini,
Oh
which
yes.
is, we talked about that the other day. Is that weird little
That weird little one.
almost a what is that, a trapezoid?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. It's like a
Is it a
bent
trapezoid?
trapezoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things have that, but they're so you usually get a wire if you buy some little gadget because it
Hmm.
always has that one. Yeah, I've got so many little cords all over the place, and sometimes I put them in a bag together, but like then you have to search the whole bag every time you. It's weird. Just I didn't know miniDV was going to be such a short-lived phenomenon because it was everywhere at the time,
It
but it only
was.
lived from 1998 to 2008. And during that era, I made a movie, and then it swiftly disappeared. And now all the hardware to do it is disappearing,
Yeah.
and the tapes are starting to go get tape rot, and it's like, oh man, because I've been storing them in a nice cool dry place for a long time, but I always thought, well, I've got another little while before I do anything about that archive. It's like, no,
Apparently you
better.
don't.
Apparently I don't. But it'll be a load. In fact, I woke up today going, so how do I feel? Crone's now out there. I was like, it did sort of an unbearable lightness of being. Like I relieved myself of a burden I wasn't specifically conscious I was carrying, but definitely was for quite a long time. And prolonging it, a therapist would have to tell me, why are you still holding on to this thing that's burdening you all the time? I don't know, but I guess I feel better now that it's even with flaws still in it. It's a record of what I was capable of doing at the time I made it.
But
And
I
that's
saw a
it.
version, didn't I have a version on DVD that doesn't have any audio dropout.
Oh, it does.
Oh, really? It does that
The
same
fact
thing?
that most people don't seem to notice and it drives me crazy. Yeah, there's a few very obvious places where just the sound goes and is not there. Yeah, including
Okay, I didn't.
notably at the climax of the movie, but also there's a sequence where Isaacs is being photographed getting into the limousine with the Russians, and for
Oh,
some
right.
reason it kind of drops out there too, and I didn't notice that for a while. But at the end, like a lot's going on. Muriel's in an earthquake. Isaacs is on the phone with her, and somehow his voice dropped out, and people actually thought that was intentional and liked it. That you just see him. Uh, But no, he was saying, hang in there, hang in there." His voice is back now, so I don't know. Maybe it was supposed. People liked it better when it wasn't there as an artist. I didn't. So the thing that's still wrong is like the very last shot of that whole earthquake sequence is a bunch of stuff in Muriel's office falling over, and there's no sound of things going thud,
No clatter.
and there's no sound of the earthquake rumble going and tapering off. It just kind of goes silent, and it bugs me, and it's like it kind of anti-climaxes the whole climax of the thing, but now it's uploaded that way and I can't fix it because I had all night long I had ideas of like, oh, I know what I could do. Even if I didn't want to like generate new sound, I could clip bits of the movie from other sources of audio and patch it and do all that. And then I realized, oh, I can't re-upload it or I'd have to re-upload it all over again, and I have to watch the whole movie again. People don't realize how many times I've watched the Krone Experiment.
Oh,
You have
golly.
no idea how many times I've seen that movie. Uh, let alone making all the hundreds of thousands of individual down to the frame decisions of everything that makes that movie. Everything was a decision.
Yeah.
I had to decide every frame and every bit of every second of sound in that movie. That's a lot of work. That's why
Yeah,
mostly a
it is.
team does it. Anyway, I still think I should have been a filmmaker more than making just one movie. But I don't know. Maybe something
I
will happen
agree.
because we're in the new digital era and it's there.
Yeah.
I'm sharing it with the world for free because that will lead to something, is my gamble here.
There you go. I think that's
More
reasonable
more than thinking I'll
because it's really the fact that it's a very ambitious project to do on. I mean, it's basically a thriller, action, adventure, sci-fi movie
yeah.
done for no money on mini DV with one camera guy who's also the director, who's also the
If you
gaffer,
know
who's
all
also the
that,
sound
it's
guy.
much more impressive. So that's the story that needs to be told somehow. Um
Yeah, and when I watched it, I went, This is pretty
It's pretty
impressive
good. It's
because
pretty good.
no visible means of support, and it hangs together as a pretty good
It's pretty good. I was
movie of
aiming for
that
great,
type.
but it's pretty good, and like pretty good is pretty
For
good.
no budget, when people who make movies like 3 Days of the Condor or
I mean,
whatever, you know.
compare
Mm,
it to El Mariachi.
yeah,
They cost about the same.
yeah,
Look at the ambitions of Krone compared to El Mariachi.
yeah.
I'm
This is
just
budget.
saying.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you.
Anyway, oh, I wanted to, we I talked a little bit last time about the start of my interactive fiction career,
Oh
and
yeah.
I wanted to mention something because I talked about my hanging out with my dad, but I left out an unknown. I left out a part about my mom's role in starting me on that journey. Um, that she's the one who bought me my choose your own adventure books.
Okay.
I didn't know they existed. My mom found them and brought them home to me. I was sick for a week from school. This is very unusual. I wasn't much sick. I got mono. I don't know how. I
Oh
wasn't
wow.
kissing girls. We went on a field trip, and two of us from the trip came back with mono. It was, I don't
Mm,
know. So I was out for a week and kind of sad because I actually liked going to school.
yeah.
One of those kids. And she went out and it's like tried to find things that would cheer me up and went to a little bookstore. It was on around 35th and Jefferson. There used to be little shops. There was always a
Yeah.
7-Eleven on the corner. There isn't now. And there was a little secondhand bookstore, and she just looked around and somehow it caught her eye. These like set of choose your own adventure books. And they were new-ish then. They'd been published for a couple of years. And she bought like two or three of them and just said, "Oh, Rob might like these." Just using her mom instincts, and they were like spot on because I just like read and read and read them, and then so I actually had the week I was sick. I actually remember being as fun, and she was making me, all the food I wanted that was my favorite. So it's like I actually it's a really good memory, and then I came away filled with like the idea that um, a book could stop at a certain point and go, "Which way do you want to go?"
Yeah.
And that whole thing, which is the basis of interactive fiction.
Yep.
Um, you start thinking non-linearly or branchingly in terms of telling a story, and then you start wanting to do your own, which actually me and a couple of other guys, that was fifth grade. In sixth grade, we actually did. Someone had a typewriter, and it was one of those things where you go over for the weekend to one guy's house and you start writing. This was some dumb thing, and that still exists. um, I have that. I'm the one who saved that manuscript because I was the one who saved everything. Everyone else, it would all be thrown away. But actually, this living museum, I and has that too. Actually, the game I was talking about called First Things First.
hmm
Um, there's a secret Easter egg where you go to a certain location and I guess you climb up onto the roof of a house and go over to the chimney. And if you just incongruously say up, you fly into the sky. And there's a secret little room. And on a coffee table is a choose your own adventure book. And it's the one I wrote with my sixth grade pals. I actually,
Wow.
you can, you can play it in the game. But, and I thought not many people would find it. But in fact, people that are experienced text adventure game players, they just go to a location and type all the cardinal directions and
They'll
up and
try it.
down
Yeah.
everywhere. So
Yep.
a lot of people found it. I didn't think anyone would know about it. Anyway, so I just wanted to say my mom had a crucial role in my
Yeah.
development as well. Just props to mom as other than that, I don't know what I didn't see in oh I said I didn't see a movie. I kind of saw The Mandalorian and Grogu on Friday, but
Kinda.
I actually left halfway through.
Really? Was that good?
Well, I enjoyed the first half, but it was weird because I mean, basically there wasn't much story. It was, but in classic Star Wars tradition, it's like every 10 minutes, action set piece, they get out of it, action set piece, they get out of it, action set piece, and I'm like, this is nice and all, but I'm getting a little bored. And then, very strangely, he sort of finished the mission that had been preoccupying him for the first hour and said, to the rebel leader, okay, I'm going off and taking a rest. And he flies, and it's like, you've clearly felt the movie like ending one part and then about to invent something else. He gets kidnapped, and then it's up to Grogu and some other little tiny guys to go on an adventure to save. And I'd seen clips of just the four tiny puppets racing around in a speeder, and I thought, this is really, and it's not going to have the Mandalorian. It's going to be the adventure of Grogu trying to go get him. And I just thought, that looks so made for kids. And, Star Wars is kind of for kids, and I just like,
Yeah,
I'd finished the food I had ordered at the Alamo, and I thought, you know what, I'm
I'm
and
done.
my ticket was paid for by my monthly pass, and I just thought, I'm kind of tired. I'm gonna go home. And I don't think I missed it. And it's gonna be on Disney Plus in a month or two. I'll catch
Yeah.
the second half then. But yeah, I have to say, you know, I didn't dislike what I saw, but I wasn't interested in seeing the second half. And
Oh,
it felt very much
interesting.
like two episodes stuck together, because it used to be, and it's like did they conceive of it as some episodes they were planning to do, or just these are the more
And never
cinematic
did.
ones, so they stuck them together? I don't know, but I wasn't completely impressed either, obviously. Um, but it
Well,
made a whole
it
bunch of
just
money.
seemed odd to me. Did it? Was it
Yeah, it did,
successful?
did.
Well, because you know what seemed odd to me, it almost feels like your theory might be correct that they might have shot it for a new season and that never happened. And hey, what do we do with this? We
Yeah.
spent money doing this.
Hmm.
Well, let's throw it in a theater. Because when you think about it, Virginia and I watched that series, and really after the second season, lost interest in it.
Yeah.
I felt like they were rehashing stuff, and it was like, really? Like Katie Sackett?
Hmm.
And I was like, um, not, and I wasn't alone. A lot of people just kind of,
Yeah,
it's
a lot
played
of
out.
people did.
And why didn't they put out, if they're going to put out a Mandalorian and Grogu
Why
movie,
wasn't it then?
why wasn't it after the first season when everybody was hot?
Hot for it. And little baby Yoda was the biggest thing they come out of Star Wars in a long time.
They had a little
Oh.
song about it, a little animated song. Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda, floating in a pod, Baby Yoda. Um.
What was
Anyway,
watching? What did I just watch on Netflix last night? I feel like I watched some old thing. And I was going to talk about the fact that I'd watched this old movie and liked it, and it's on Netflix. And now, wow.
so
If I don't write it down, I don't remember.
I just saw yesterday. I was on Netflix because, for I guess for the 250th, they're putting all these historical documentaries on about the Great War and
Oh, cool.
George Washington and Grant and Lincoln and all those guys. And I've actually watched a few of them. They're not bad. And I know they shot them all together to save money because the same people are in
The interviews are in
about
the same.
50% of the historians are in multiple.
Oh, yeah, the overlapping stories thing is good.
And so yeah, it was what was interesting is in the Great War, they introduced you to the Harlem Hellfighters,
Oh,
which was a state militia or National Guard unit out of Harlem. And they went over to Blackjack Pershing's army, and he did not want to have a black unit, um, and
oh,
handed over to the French army and American unit, but fighting for the French. And they had French uniforms and the whole bit. And they were renamed the 318th or the 326th or something like that. But they were called the Harlem Hellfighters. Well, come to find out, there's a new documentary on Netflix called Harlem Hellfighters. tells
Hmm,
you more about these folks. And I was like, that's interesting.
sorry. My
But
computer did something while you were in the middle of that story. I
that's
I
all
hope
right.
everyone
It
else
was
listening wasn't as distracted as I was. But that's, I mean, because you hear more about, well, for every major American military conflict, there's sort of a black unit, a Negro battalion, and the story is always the same. They go over there, they're very heroic. They win every medal you can buy for heroism in combat, and they come back home and are like treated like an underclass of citizen as soon as they come back, um, which
in
is
this case, in World War One's case, um, that happened to white heroes as well.
hmm,
So people just forgot about the war. Certainly by about 1922 or three, nobody wanted to hear about it anymore, and almost all of those folks um, were, were celebrated for being heroes in the war and toasted the town for a while. But they were so they were damaged by the war in that they couldn't maintain a going concern business wise or anything else wise. So almost all of them
I
ended up
mean,
dying penniless and alone.
we know about PTSD now, or shell
Yes.
shock, but I mean, the trenches of World War One were the most horrendous
Oh, they're pretty horrendous.
thing you could subject a human to. That
Mhm.
you're there for in the mud for years with dysentery and fleas and mildew and and shells going off constantly.
Mhm.
Um,
And there's
uh,
gas
and then you come back and everyone's doing the Charleston and you're missing a leg. I don't. It's
or a
not
face.
or a face.
There were a lot of guys. Reconstructive surgery was in its infancy, and people had parts of their face blown away, and they didn't know they made prostheses.
But they weren't
Theses?
good.
No, they were like pieces of wood or metal or whatever, and hung there. They weren't made to look like a human face, and
There was
so
a young generation that was too young to have gone to the war that just wanted to party and be young and free and drink a lot. and
yeah,
and yeah, society wanted to, like, that was a grim war, and the Spanish flu. Let's move on in our collective consciousness. But like those people are living with it for the rest of their lives.
right. They can't move on.
Yeah. And
They
we
carry
say,
it
but it
with.
still wasn't fundamentally our conflict either. We just came in at the last couple of years and cleaned it up somehow. Well, fresh energy poured
Yeah,
in after
yeah.
years of stalemate. And actually,
Well, it was
do I
it
really know
was
how we managed to bring the Great War to an end by
two
getting
things.
into it?
I think the Americans showed up, and so they started going over in late 1917, but
Hmm.
they weren't really going to be an issue till summer of 1918. And
Hmm.
what had happened was the Germans saw the writing on the wall and thought, "Ooh, boy, we either need to try to win this war now,
Right.
or or forget about it." So they did almost it's almost allegorical, not or analogous to the Battle of the Bulge Push in World
Right.
War II. They made one last offensive effort, and they pretty much spent themselves.
Yeah.
And they
Horrendous.
they created a little bit of a bulge, but they threw the Americans in with the French, and they stopped it just just in the outskirts of Paris, and they pushed it back.
Right.
And so because they were hoping to take Paris and get France to agree to terms, and they didn't quite make it. And then so after they pushed back, um, the Americans and along with the French went on an offensive themselves and thought, oh, this is going to be bad because these Germans are pretty tough fighters. Well, they had been spent.
Mhm.
And so what happened when they got to the lines, these people were starving. They had no equipment. They were out of ammunition, and they pretty much fell apart. And so they they came to the French and they said, "Well, we'd like to discuss terms." And the French were having none of it. And they said, "No, you just you, you will sign what we tell you to sign, or we'll just keep driving to Berlin."
Uh, yeah,
And so it's
and they
similar.
did.
And yeah.
And then Hitler said, "Hey, I got an opportunity here to ride this
Well,
grievance."
Wilson was trying to tell them that, that's the wrong attitude, because you're just punching them in the face and bruising them so badly that they can't really stand back up on their feet.
Yeah.
And the French attitude was good. Screw the Bosch, you know?
Yeah, but that
And
demoralized resentment had a big blowback.
did. I mean, all it did was, I mean, when you think about it, it ends in 18, and the new war starts in 39.
Yeah,
You bought 20 years. That's it. One generation.
yeah.
And the whole thing comes back at you with a vengeance, with
I mean,
even nastier technology.
fortunately, there were some people that did learn the lessons of the end of First World War at the end of the Second World War for how
Yeah.
we treated Germany and Japan and Italy. It was different. It was like we're getting rid of all the Nazis and we're putting them on trial, all this stuff, but it
Yes.
wasn't that complete like we're gonna crush you again. It's like we don't want this a third time coming up.
Yeah, I think,
Fortunately, the general German people stepped up and said, "This is on our conscience. We're not going to do this again." And they
right.
still feel like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And,
and
but, you also had the stupid fascists demanding total war instead of, you know, surrendering. I mean, they weren't going to win the war after that last desperate attempt to reach Antwerp in the Battle of the Bulge failed at Bastogne. They were done, and
yeah,
everybody knew they were done, but they would not. He said, "No, it's total war. Everybody in the country, pick up a weapon and fight for your homeland."
uh-huh,
And all it did was delay the inevitable and destroy the country. But
yeah,
the fanatical SS people, they would they would enlist 12-year-olds, put guns in their hands, put them on the front line. And if they turned around to say, "I don't really want to do this," they would hang them, old men and kids. And it's just like, what?
they were so brutal. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get that
So,
many people to go absolutely sociopathic? I don't quite understand.
so
Um,
there was no alternative but to defeat them completely and end that regime. And so that regime was done. There was no way that the German people could reconstitute a government. So they were occupied for many years.
yeah,
And that occupation tried quickly to rebuild a republic. But now you have the complication in Germany. You've got
East
only
Berlin
three,
and
right? You only have three sectors that were from Western powers, and one sector from the authoritarian power that didn't want to play that.
the 20th century is mighty complex.
It really is. It's fascinating from a historical point of view,
It really
but
is.
but it's also like
Wow.
craziness.
Yeah.
But my sister and her kids just got back from Pearl Harbor, and they got
Oh,
to do the Arizona tour and the USS Missouri tour and a
great.
few other military air and land or air and sea museums, because they've found a bunch of wrecks from the battles, and they've brought them onto shore and put them. They haven't rebuilt them or anything. They just have them
Right.
all wrecked, showing you the destruction of the war. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that's there in
And it's
Honolulu.
how this reminds me of, just to wrap it up on a sour note,
Uh-oh.
yet another stupid scandal from this administration. Kash Patel decided to go scuba diving in Hawaii
Yes, he did.
around the USS Arizona. And there's people just like absolutely jaw drop, like, that's a tomb. That's a grave site. That's not a tourist destination. And he
Well,
had to change the
ostensibly,
rules for everything to go out of everywhere you could go scuba diving in Hawaii. Why did Kash Patel have to
because
change the
not
rules,
everybody
wrangle the
can do
resources
it.
to go there?
Not everybody can do it. He wanted the exclusivity of it, and he got because they do go down there on a regular basis and inspect the wreck.
Yeah, they have to see
Right, the
how it's
Navy does it.
preserved and stuff.
He wanted to be, and he got himself insinuated into that team that went down to inspect the wreck. And so,
Everything's a grift
because
for these people. How much can I scam and free stuff out of serving in a public, I don't know, sure, public service job? Normally, you're supposed to know, like, it's not about a big salary and cushy perks. You're serving the public when
hey,
you
you're
go
supposed
in.
to be working for a living.
Otherwise, go into the private sector, make all the money you want. It should not be this. Oh, God. How are we going to fix all this? Why are there so many creeps and crumoids? They've always been there. They just have free reign now to go nuts, is what it is.
Yeah,
But they're more obvious.
that used to be shameful activity
Yes.
and shameful behavior, and people would have shamed you for it.
We're in the age of
And
no shame at all.
right, they don't feel it, and nobody seems to care.
Yeah.
Both those things.
All right. Well, on that note, that's the end of this week's Tom
Have a
and
nice
Rob
day, everyone.
chat. Bye bye. Oh, yeah, we have been talking for about 45 minutes to an hour again. Once
Yeah.
again, we have managed to squander another hour of your valuable time. We got 23 views last time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Broke
that's
20. I like it.
that's definitely more than I ever told. I have stopped telling people necessarily that there's a new episode. So
Those are
again,
all
I think
organic.
YouTube is starting to figure it out. I don't know. It just do I watch other people talk in this format for an hour? No, but I think our conversations are very interesting, and
Or
some
at
other
least
people
portions of
might
them.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents every once in a while listen, and they are like, "You guys have a good conversation. You guys know a lot about a lot of different things. You've got your whole history background and all that stuff, and we can talk about movies at a level of filmmakers talking about movies.
Right.
It's
Which is
interesting,
fun.
which is fun.
And sometimes those things they intersect.
Yeah.
History and movies and all that stuff, they all they intersect.
By
Anyway,
the
it was
way,
fun.
for whatever reason, it's done it a little bit, but your little sound dropout problem has not been as bad this week.
I wonder why.
I don't know. Like right now, it's perfect.
Well, if I can find this dongle, where have all the dongles?
No, the last
I
time I
might be
looked
able to
at
try that.
my version of that lav mic, the dongle was a lightning connector, not a USB-C
It
connector.
is, but I do have lightning on this particular phone. This is an
Oh, okay.
iPhone 14.
Oh, wow.
If it were any iPhone later, it would have a
Yes. So you have to
USB-C connector.
keep a hold of those things. All right. Yeah, it's a good. Well, I'm finding out it's good to keep the old technology around because I have to rescue all these mini-DV tapes.
I'm impressed that you did that, because if I had to do that,
What would you do?
at one point I had a bunch of DV8s.
Yes.
Do you remember that format?
Yes.
And Sony made a digital DV8 so that you could put the old tapes into the digital camera and then take the wire out into your computer and automatically
Oh, that's a good
digitize your
thing to
tapes.
have.
Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah. We need more things like that. The thing is, it takes a major manufacturer to make any equipment of like there's a lot of delicate little parts and
Yeah, there are.
circuitry, but the numbers aren't there to make it. Let's rescue a mini DV gadget. You can't just make one of those if There
You'd
aren't.
have to have one of the old Sony miniDV decks, which I do have one. I think you do too, right? Mine had a
I
little.
do. I didn't think it could translate. It has both a VHS and a mini DV thing. So I could actually transfer VHS tapes to mini DV and then digitize VHS tapes that way. Not
Oh,
that I would want to do that very often, but I did it a couple of times.
huh.
Um, of course, VCRs break down, the rubber bands wear out, and things like that. And I haven't opened it up and dusted it and cleaned it. And actually, now I probably should at least dust inside of it. Anyway, all right, that's it. We're
All
gonna
right.
sign off for now. I'll see you next time, Tom. Thanks for chatting.
All right, man. My pleasure. We'll see you
All
soon.
right, bye
Bye
bye.
bye.